was not a white prophet, it was an Indian prophet.
Yeah.
He's named after an Indian.
Oh.
He was called the prophet.
Yeah, he was called the prophet.
Oh, that's cool.
Is it a Native American Indian?
Yeah, American
Yeah,
Indian.
Tecumseh, Chief Tecumseh's brother was called the prophet. And the Americans burnt their village to the ground.
Oh, that's terrible.
Yes.
Okay.
He united 14 tribes.
Against
Fight against
the
British.
Well, we're gonna go ahead and get started. I am gonna invite you to start actually today in a child's pose. So if you wanna come up gently onto your knees. And again, as always, you can take your knees as wide as the mat, sit your hips back, stretch your arms forward, rest your head on the mat, or if it's more comfortable for you, you can make a fist or a couple of fists on top of each other to rest your head on top of your fists. Or you can always keep your knees together and kind of drape your arms back behind you. Lots of different variations for that pose. And just go ahead and pay attention to your breath. Take some nice deep inhales. Today we are focusing on just a really simple mantra that we are not alone. So many of us are working on our recoveries, or we're working on healing from past violence or exploitation, or just working on ourselves in general. And it can be really easy to have that recovery journey feel very lonely. So this is just a reminder, a gentle reminder that you're not alone in that transformational process, even though you may feel alone. And so that's kind of our mantra for today, is just a reminder, something that you can say to yourself that you're not alone. On Tuesday, we did a self-compassion practice, and that is one of the steps in that practice, is to recognize the suffering that you feel, to remind yourself that you are connected to a larger group of people and that you're not alone. And that everybody experiences suffering. And then the last part was to offer compassion to yourself through that practice. So, like I said, go ahead and pay attention to your breath. We're in that child's pose. And then I'm going to invite you to start to walk your hands off to one side of the mat. Just gently moving to one side. Taking another deep breath here. And then walking those hands to the opposite side of the mat. Really opening up that other side body. Taking one more deep breath. And then walking those hands back to the center. We're going to go ahead and press our palms into the mat and then bring ourselves up onto all fours. Drawing our knees underneath our hips and our wrists underneath our shoulders. Always feel free to make a fist and come up onto your fist if that is easier on your wrists. And from here, we're going to do some cat-cows. So when you're ready, allow that belly to sink down, allow the tailbone to come up, allow the head to come up. Inhale. And then exhale, tuck that tailbone, arch up through the back, tuck that chin. And ready for your inhale, go ahead and move back into cow. Opening up the chest. And then when you're ready for your exhale, go ahead and start to take the arch of your spine up toward the ceiling, stretching through those shoulder blades. flowing through a couple of these at your own pace, following your own breath. We'll do maybe 5 or 6 of these. Again, paying attention to that spine, kind of waking it up a little bit. And then when you're done, you're gonna come back to neutral. We're gonna do a thread the needle pose. So we're gonna sit our hips back over top of our heels again and slide that right arm underneath the left arm and then sink down to the mat. Getting a nice stretch on the back side of that right shoulder. When you're ready, you can go ahead and take that right hand back out. We're switching sides, taking the left arm under, coming back down to the mat. Breathing deeply here. And sliding that left arm out. We're gonna go ahead and do a calf stretch. So we're gonna pull ourselves up onto all fours first. We're gonna make sure that those knees are underneath our hips again. Take that right foot back behind us, planting those toes on the mat. I'm gonna have to readjust here so I'm on that. And then you're going to simply lean back or push the mat away from you, stretching into that right calf muscle. One more deep breath. And you're going to slide that right knee up between your two front hands, coming down into pigeon pose on that right side. And here, if you want to find some movement, you're welcome to. Or if you want to take a deeper stretch, you can start to reach back. You can bring that back leg up. You can reach back for it, drawing that foot in towards your body if that's comfortable for you. Or you can stay in whatever position feels comfortable to you. When you're ready, go ahead and start to work yourself up onto your palms. You're going to sit down on that right hip and then open toward the long edge of your mat. I should have started with my left foot so that way I was facing you guys when I did that, but I didn't. So we're going to come into a half open A. So that right knee is bent in, the left leg is extended, and now we're simply leaning forward, stretching out the inside and the back side of our thigh here. When you're ready, you can walk those hands to frame that right knee. So you're going to leave that left palm down, and then you're going to reach up toward the ceiling with that right arm. So you're getting a bit of a spinal twist here. And if that's too far, you can bring this hand back toward the center. So don't feel like you have to go as far as what I'm doing. And then go ahead and bring that back to center. We're going to go ahead and turn back onto that right hip. Framing that front knee with our palms again, coming back into our pigeon pose. And then we're going to go ahead and push ourselves up onto all fours. This time taking the other side. So we're going to go ahead and step back with that left foot. Again, pressing your palms into the mat, almost like you're pushing the mat away from you. And then trying to slide your hands, again, away from you. That's going to shift your whole body back just slightly to add some pressure to the back of that heel and the back of your calf. Holding this for about 3 deep breaths. Maybe one more. And then you're gonna go ahead and slide that left knee up in front of both of those hands, coming into pigeon pose on the other side. And then go ahead and work yourself down onto your elbows. If you'd like, you can relax your head down. Really allowing yourself to sink into that stretch. Relaxing the hip flexor, relaxing the outer hip as well. And then go ahead and start to work yourself up onto your palms. Again, you're gonna sit down on that hip and then turn to face the long edge of your mat. Again, facing the room. So then here in this half open A position, we're gonna place our hands on the mat and then simply lean forward. Feeling that stretch along your hamstring and along the inner thigh here. And then I'm gonna invite you to take your hands and frame that left knee, so you're kind of leaning over still. And then see if you can take that left arm up toward the ceiling. Again, you're getting a little spinal twist here. And if this is too far, you're gonna work your hand back toward the center so you can open up a little further. Just depends on what your body is telling you today. And then release that arm back down. We're gonna sit back onto that leg and come back into our pigeon pose. And we're gonna slide that knee back underneath our hips, coming back to all fours. From here, we're gonna go ahead and cross our feet and then sit back into crisscross applesauce at the back of our mats. Stretching those legs forward. We're going to start with staff pose. So we are making sure that our toes are going up toward the ceiling. All of our leg muscles are engaged. So almost like you're going to hug those muscles to the bone. Sitting up nice and tall, pressing your hands into the mat at your hips. Taking a couple deep breaths. Engaging your core, opening up your chest, drawing your chin back slightly so your ears are over top of your shoulders. And then go ahead and inhale both arms up overhead. And then from here, hinge at your hips, see if you can keep your back as flat as possible and then allow your arms to float down for forward fold. It doesn't have to be a super deep stretch in order to be effective. Sometimes I think we get it in our mind one way. And we think if I'm not doing it full out, then I'm not doing it right. But any stretching is effective, even if it's not so deep. When you're ready, you can walk your hands back towards center. You're going to start to bend that right leg out to the side. So your right knee is forward, left hand behind at an angle, and then you're going to stretch that right arm toward the right knee. You can always come down onto your elbow to deepen this stretch. We're getting a little bit of a quad stretch here on the right side. Really thinking about that quad. Sometimes we can try to overcompensate with other areas of our body, so we want to make sure we're stretching the right one. And then go ahead and start to work yourself back up. Unfold that leg. Come back into our staff pose where we're opening up the chest, pressing our palms into the mat next to us. And then inhale both arms up. Reach up toward the ceiling and then out away from you, and then allow those hands to settle down onto either the mat or your legs or over your feet. Depends on how long your arms are and what your flexibility level is today. You might notice as we do this for the second time that you're able to come down a little further. And when you're ready, walking those hands back to center, this time bending the left foot back so the left knee is forward. Taking that right arm back at an ankle, reaching for that left knee. And then if you like, again, you can always come down onto your elbow to deepen the stretch. Taking a couple deep breaths here. Maybe calling back to mind our mantra for today. I am not alone. When you're ready, you can start to work yourself back up. Unfold that leg, bring it forward, coming back into stack pose again, sitting nice and tall. On your next inhale, go ahead and lift both arms up. For our last forward fold, go ahead and stretch forward, allowing those hands to settle down onto your legs. And when you're ready, you can go ahead and walk those hands back to center. You're going to bend that right leg, use your opposite arm, and hug that knee into your chest. So you're getting a little spinal twist here. Just trying to open things up. And releasing that down. We'll go ahead and take the other side, so then the other leg, hugging back into your chest. We've already kind of prepped ourselves for this position by doing our needle poses and our pigeon poses. And releasing that down to the mat. We're going to go ahead and cross our legs, just like applesauce, and then pull ourselves up once more onto all fours. We're going to walk our hands forward, coming into a modified plank pose. And from here, we're gonna bend our elbows deeply, but keep our elbows close to our bodies. And then we're gonna try it, without touching the ground, we're gonna push ourselves back into a puppy dog pose. So what that looks like is like this. We're gonna lower down, we're hovering over the mat, and then we're starting to bend our hips and stretch back into puppy dog pose. We're gonna come up through all fours and then come back to our modified plank. Okay, so I'm gonna do that again, and then you can do several of those rotations at your own pace. So we're gonna lower down, we're hovering if you can, shifting your hips back. We're coming into puppy dog pose, then coming up through all fours and coming back to our modified plank. If we can, let's try to do that 3 times. We're going to be warming up our bodies here, getting a lot of blood flowing then. And if this is not accessible for you, feel free to come down into a child's pose or to hold a plank, whichever fits you for today. And then coming back into our modified plank, we're gonna go ahead and lower ourselves all the way down to the mat. We're gonna bring our palms out in front, taking ourselves up to our elbows for Sphinx pose. And then go ahead and work yourself back onto your palms. See if you can come up into a little cobra. And in this pose, see if you can relax your glutes. So often we clench those trying to get up higher, but the flexibility doesn't actually come from our glutes in this pose. And then lower all the way down, make a little pillow for your head, and then take some recovery breaths. Slowing down that breath, slowing down that heart rate. Maybe 1 or 2 more deep breaths here. And then go ahead and work yourself back onto those palms. We're gonna tuck our toes, push ourselves up into a plank pose if we can. And then lift those hips, coming into our first downward facing dog for today. You wanna find a little bit of movement if you wanna sway side to side, or if you wanna bend one knee at a time. Feel free to do that. I'm sure I've said this before, but when we bend one knee at a time, sometimes we call this walking your dog. And then settling those heels down or just energetically drawing them toward the mat. Go ahead and look forward towards your hands. We're gonna step our left foot forward. We're gonna angle that back foot. I'm actually gonna take off my socks because otherwise I'll start sweating. So we're gonna angle that back foot. Hands are in front to frame that front knee. And then from here, we're gonna lift into warrior 1. Yeah. So again, a good reason why we stretched out those calves earlier. And then we're gonna open up to the side, allowing that back toe to come toward the long edge of the mat for warrior 2. From here, we're gonna reverse our warrior. So we're gonna drop that back arm, lift the front arm. Knee is still bent in front if you can. Then taking that right arm all the way down to the inside of that front foot. We're gonna reach up with our right hand. And then from here, if you can, start to straighten that front leg a little bit. Go ahead and release that right arm down to the mat. Frame that front foot. Allow the back heel to come up off of the mat. We're going to step that back foot in just slightly. Coming into triangle pose. And bending that front knee. We're going to step all the way back. That back foot again. Then we're stepping that left foot back to meet the right foot. Returning to our plank pose. And then if you like, you can drop your knees, allow yourself to come down to the mat. And you can either drop all the way down to the mat here, or you can take one of those circles that we did where we're shifting our hips back into puppy pose, coming up through all fours, returning to modified plank, and then coming all the way down to the back. This time, again, making a little pillow for yourself. Again, using that breath to slow your heart rate down. Being fully present in your body. Noticing where the mat is supporting you. And then we're going to take the other side. So I'm going to invite you again to take your hands underneath your shoulders, tuck those toes, and then we're going to push up into plank. Shifting our hips back, we're going to come back into our downward facing dog. Checking that our biceps are by our ears, our palms are really pressed firmly into the mat. Our heels are energetically reaching for the mat, even if they're not actually touching the mat. Then we're going to look forward toward those hands and step forward with that right foot. We're going to angle that back foot so that way the whole foot is touching the mat. And then we're going to lift up into warrior one. Drawing those shoulders down away from your ears. I'm going to turn around so that way I can see you all as we do this. We're going to open up to the side so the back toes come toward the long edge of the mat. Arms are parallel to the floor. That front knee is still bent. Dropping the back arm, reaching up with the right arm, reverse warrior. Again, leaving that front knee bent if you can. And then taking that right hand all the way down to the inside of that front foot, reaching up with the left hand. If you would like, you can look up toward your left hand. If that's not comfortable for your neck, then feel free to look down towards your right hand. Then if you can, straightening that front leg. Breathing deeply. And taking that left hand all the way down to the mat, framing that front foot. We're going to turn that back heel and step that back foot in slightly for triangle pose. Seeing if we can relax into this position, intentionally thinking about each of those different sections of muscles. And bending that front foot, we're going to step that back foot back. We're going to step the right foot back, leave the left, coming into our plank pose. From here, we can drop our knees, untuck the toes, and if you'd like, you can lower all the way down to the mat, or you can do one of those circles like we did earlier. So arms close to the body, lowering down, shifting the hips back, pushing into puppy dog pose, lifting up into all fours, and then returning back to our modified plank. Lowering ourselves all the way down this time, making a little pillow and resting our heads down. Again, using that breath, slowing everything way down. I'm going to grab my notes here as you guys rest in that pose. When you're ready, we're going to work our palms underneath our shoulders again. We tuck our toes, push up into plank pose, and then shift our hips back into downward facing dog once more. We're going to look forward, step forward with the right foot. Again, turn that back foot at an angle. We're lifting up into warrior one like we did before. Keeping those shoulders down away from the ears. Opening up into warrior two. Making sure that front knee stays over top of the front ankle. Then dropping the back arm, lifting the front arm, reverse warrior. All of this should be a little familiar. Taking that right hand all the way down to the mat on the inside of that front foot, reaching up toward the ceiling, and then straightening that front leg. That's an option. Taking that top arm all the way down to the mat, framing that front foot, turning so that way the back heel, or so that way both sets of toes are facing that short edge of the mat. We're gonna bend that front knee, but this time we're walking ourselves forward slightly. So now we have hands at 10 and 2. Go ahead and straighten that leg that all of your weight is on. And then we're gonna take this back leg and you can bring it either parallel to the floor, or if you have a split, you can start to work that up toward the ceiling. Taking a nice deep breath. Go ahead and allow that leg to come down. We're gonna come into a forward fold here first at the top of our mat. Then bend our knees, put our hands on our knees. Slowly, slowly round ourselves up. Ooh, ooh. We're gonna bring our hands to heart center, shift those hips back, and then bend down into chair pose. If you'd like to bring your arms out for a little more balance, or up to engage your back muscles, feel free to do that. From here, we're gonna try to come up onto our toes. I don't know if you guys can see this or not. Then set those heels back down. Go ahead and stand back up. Release the arms down. We're gonna move into a balancing posture here. So we're gonna shift our weight to the left foot. Draw that right ankle over top of the left knee. Bring our hands to heart center. Shift our hips back and then come down into figure 4. Drawing that belly button in toward the spine. And lifting, standing out of that pose. Go ahead and inhale, arms up. Palms together, exhale all the way forward. We're gonna step that left foot back, coming back into triangle pose. Then bending that front knee. I'm gonna step that back foot even further. Step the right foot back to meet the left. Coming into plank, dropping those knees. Take one of those big circles if you'd like, or lowering down to the mat, either way. And then coming all the way down. Making a little pillow, and then taking your recovery breaths. I'm gonna switch sides so that I can still face you when we do this next side. So working ourselves up onto our palms here, tucking the toes, pressing up into plank pose, and then shifting our hips back into downward facing dog. We're doing a lot of work here. So reminding ourselves we're not alone in this process. Even as our bodies are being transformed as we are moving them around on our mats. When we're ready, we're gonna look forward, step forward with the left foot. Anchor that back foot, setting it down on the mat firmly, lifting up into warrior 1. Then opening up to the side for warrior 2, adjusting your feet as needed. Dropping that back arm, lifting the front arm, opening up that rib cage for reverse warrior. Taking that left hand all the way down to the inside of that front foot, reaching up with the right arm, straightening out that front leg if you can. And then taking that right hand, sweeping that down to the mat. We're going to frame that front foot. I'm going to turn so that way the back foot is, how did I say this last time? So that way both sets of toes are facing that short edge of the mat. We're going to bend that front knee and then start to walk ourselves forward, bringing our hands to 10 and 2, and straightening that front leg. We're going to bring that back leg up parallel to the floor. And if you have it, you can start to draw that foot up toward the ceiling further. Taking a nice deep breath. We're going to bring that foot down to the other foot, coming into forward fold at the front of our mat. And bending our knees deeply, putting our hands on our knees, and the head around all the way up. Whew. Taking our hands to heart center, shifting our hips back. We're going to come down into chair pose. And again, if you'd like to put your arms in a different position, you're welcome to do that. From here, we're going to see if we can raise up onto our toes. And setting those toes back down, lifting up out of that pose. We're going to shift our weight to that right foot, crossing the left foot over the right knee, returning our hands to heart center. And then shifting those hips back if you can, coming down into figure 4. Taking a few deep breaths here, holding the pose but not the breath, and then standing up out of that. Ooh, inhale, both arms up, palms together, exhale all the way forward. Stepping back with that right foot, we're going to come into triangle pose. And then bending that front knee, we're going to step that right foot back further. Then step the left foot back, and the right foot. Coming into our plank pose, dropping the knees. And again, either lowering down or taking a big circle. So chaturanga, shift the hips back, the puppy pose, come up through all fours, and return to modified plank. This time lowering ourselves all the way down. Last time, making a little pillow for ourselves, taking some deep breaths. Again, using that breath to restore oxygen levels in your body, to allow that heart rate to come down, to remind ourselves of our mantra, that even though this work is hard and transformation is difficult, we are not alone in it. I'm going to encourage you to bend your knees deeply here. And then go ahead and start to windshield wiper those feet back and forth. So dropping the feet off to one side and back up toward the center, and then off toward the other side. See if you can release any tension you might be feeling in your low back space. And bring those feet back to center. Release those down to the mat. We're gonna work ourselves up onto our hands again, stretching first up into our cobra pose. Then lowering all the way down. We're gonna push up into modified plank. And then we're gonna slide that right knee up between those two front hands and fold forward for our pigeon pose on the right side. When you're ready, we can start to work ourselves back onto our palms, sliding that right knee back. We're gonna switch sides, sliding the left knee forward, coming back down over top of that bent knee. And working ourselves back up onto our palms, this time sitting down on that front hip, turning to face the long edge of the mat. Allow the top of that right leg to come up, stretching into wide open A. My hip is saying, don't do that, so I'm not gonna do that for a second while it recovers. So kind of listening to our bodies, right? So when you're here, you're gonna go ahead and place your hands in the center, and then if you'd like, you can start to lean forward slightly. Or if it feels comfortable to you, you're welcome to come down as far as you would like. So that means you're stretching your arms out far in front of you and resting your forehead on the mat. Feel free to do that too. From here, we're gonna walk those hands back to center. Draw the soles of the feet together, coming into butterfly pose. Allowing those knees to come down toward the mat. If you'd like to bounce those knees up and down, you're welcome to. And then if you'd like to fold forward, you're welcome to do that too. Rounding ourselves up, taking both knees together. We're going to turn and lower ourselves down onto our backs. We got just a couple more poses, and then we're going to go ahead and do our final relaxation pose. So from here, you're going to take your right leg or your left leg all the way down to the mat. You're going to leave your right knee bent. You're going to take that across your body and then reach out with that right hand for a gentle spinal twist. And coming back to center, go ahead and draw that right knee into your chest. Again, drawing your attention to your breath and back to our mantra. Recognizing that we are not alone doesn't mean that we will never feel lonely again. It just means that when we do feel lonely, we have the truth to remind ourselves of. That no matter how overwhelmingly lonely it feels, we are not alone. When you're ready, you can take that right hand to the outside of that right foot. You're going to draw the bottom of that foot up towards the ceiling for half baby pose. You take that left arm down alongside of your body for a little bit of balance. Feel free to do that. And releasing that foot, go ahead and take that right leg all the way down. Take your arms up overhead, inhale deeply. And then circle those arms down along the side of your body as you exhale, drawing that left knee into your chest. We're gonna go ahead and take that left knee across the body, reaching out with the left arm for a gentle spinal twist on the other side. From here, we're gonna roll back to center. Again, drawing that knee into the chest. Seeing if you can relax that right leg a little further. Taking about 3 deep breaths here. When you're ready, you can start to work your left hand to the outside of that left foot. Again, drawing the sole of the foot up toward the ceiling, bringing that right arm down to your side for a little bit of support, a little bit of balance. For a half baby pose on the other side. And releasing that all the way down to the mat. Go ahead and stretch out both legs. Again, inhale, arms up overhead if you'd like. And then exhale those arms down to your sides. Drawing the soles of your feet to the mat. We're gonna heel toe our feet out about as wide as the mat. And we're gonna do a reverse windshield wiper. So here, instead of windshield wipering our feet, we're windshield wipering our knees. So we're keeping our feet where they are, allowing our knees to come down to one side, then back up toward the center, then allowing the knees to go back down to the other side, coming back up toward the center. Just doing a couple of those at your own pace. Remembering to breathe while you do so. And then go ahead and draw both knees into your chest. Rock back and forth across that low back space. Come back to center and then release both legs down to the mat, taking a final relaxation pose that is comfortable and right for your body today. So that means that you need to flip over to child's pose, or if you need to sit up or do something else, feel free to do that. And we're going to take just a couple of moments of quiet here, and I'll call us back together in a moment. You can go ahead and start to wiggle your toes, wiggle your fingers. Turn to a side that feels intuitively right to you and gently push yourself up into a seated position. And then when you have come to that seated position, I'm going to encourage you to put your hands over your heart as I read these words to close us from Sonia Renee Taylor's book, The Body is Not an Apology. She writes, "For most humans, transformation does not seem achievable from the distant shores of another person's life. From far away, transformation looks like a miracle or the result of magical powers possessed by the transformed person. Transformation is not magic. It's hard work, but it is also doable work. When we can see another person's labor toward their transformation, we know it is not some secret sauce, but instead a daily commitment to a new way of life. Up close, we can also see that they are not doing the work alone. Transformation and healing demand that we open ourselves up to others. For many of us, this is the highest hurdle on the radical self-led road. Body shame and body terrorism have made us profoundly distrusting. We've been judged and mocked too many times. We have vowed to never subject ourselves to such hurt again. But I want you to know that I understand. Learning to trust others is indivisible from learning to trust yourself." So when you're ready, let me go ahead and pray for us. God, thank you that transformation is hard work, but doable work. We also sit in gratitude, recognizing that this is not work that we have to do alone, and indeed that we cannot do alone. Would you continue to remind us that we are not alone on this journey? We love you, and it's in your name we pray.